So we're going to set up the Typhon speaker. We're going to use power cable. It's your pretty standard power cable you'd often get on a computer or a jug, kettle, whatever you want to call it. And we're going to use an XLR cable. This is the pretty standard, industry standard sound cable that you'll often come across. And so we're going to get our cable, check on the back first. All the volumes are turned down here, and we've got the power socket here. So power plug, check it's turned off, plug in, and then that's ready to power up. But we're going to do the rest of the cables first. So we get our XLR cable. It's the end with the prongs, and that should plug into either channel A or channel B. Now if you're going to use a microphone at the same time, you're going to plug your XLR cable for the music into channel B so that you've got the socket spare for the microphone. If you're going to use Bluetooth, again Bluetooth on channel B, so you want your microphone in channel A. So yeah, you can choose, but generally if you just go with channel B, that's going to cover most bases. So plug that in, pretty straightforward, and it's the same process if you're using a 1/4 inch or a 6.35mm jack plug. It just goes into there. So basically the same kind of cable, but with a different connector on the end. So this is the XLR, and you see at the moment it's plugged, it's turned on to Bluetooth. So we're going to switch that down to line, which relates to this connection here. Volume's right down, power's off, and we will plug the other end of this cable into your music source. Now you might need some sort of adapter, which we'll look at shortly. Okay, so with this connector, which probably won't plug into your computer or device, you need these converters. So this is quite a gnarly bit of metal, and it just plugs into here, and that converts it down to what's called an RCA plug, and you repeat that for the other channel to the other speaker. So basically the same cable, same adapter will mean that you can plug into something that might be a little bit more familiar, which is RCA cable. So that will plug into there, and the same for the other speaker, and that converts it down finally to something that you will recognize, which is the 3.5mm jack plug, which you can either plug into the side of your laptop, or some of the older phones have this kind of connector too. So you'll just be able to plug that in and you're pretty much good to go. One thing to bear in mind is, because we're using these big metal connectors, you can get a little bit of interference. So if they're right next to each other, you might get a bit of buzzing. Keep them apart like that, and that will mean that you don't get that interference. So if it's making a bit of a buzzing noise, you just need to separate those. Maybe even put a bit of tape so that they don't accidentally roll back together. Perfect. Again, if you're going to plug this into your device, most devices these days don't have these kind of connectors. They'll just have either a USB connector, or some of the older Apple devices will have their own connector. So for an Android device, got a little adapter here, so you can plug the sound into that, and that goes into the bottom of your Android devices. So you can got a little charging port, so you can still charge your Android device while it's plugged in. So that's quite a few little bits of things to plug together, but I'll generally leave those all connected so that they're good to go. If you're using an older Apple device that doesn't use USB, here's another connector that has the Apple compatible connection, and again that 3.5mm connector, and you just plug that in. That plugs into your iPod. Now the important thing to remember is, when you're doing all of this, don't keep plugging whilst this is all turned on, because it will make a lot of noise and it's not very good for the speakers. So when you're going to plug this maybe into a different device, just make sure that it's either turned off or the volume's turned right down, and either of those is a safe way to do that. And then so it does volume down or power off, you can just plug that right in. When you're all set, plug that into your device, power up, wait for the lights to kick in, and then you can ramp up the volume, the line channel, and you're good.